Comic Book Savant Extra. Welcome back to the Comic Book Savant Extra podcast. I'm your host, James Harris. This episode, we're going to be doing a movie review. We're going to be doing a review of the new DC animated film, Batman Hush. It's been out a little while now. I got a chance to finally see the movie via DC Universe. And I wanted to go ahead and do a review. You guys really have enjoyed since I've moved the reviews over here to the Savant Extra podcast feed. Again, it wasn't getting a lot of support or feedback as on the main feed. So since you guys really like those reviews, and I put up a poll, you voted for me to do them. You were cool with me doing them over here. Since I always watch every single one of them and buy pretty much all of them, I was going to put the content where you guys really want it and would enjoy it. So this is the newest one, the newest release we had. I think this is the second of three releases that DC has done for this year. We had the Reign of the Superman. Then we have this, and then we still have Wonder Woman Bloodlines coming up. And later in the review, I'll start talking about the ones that they announced during Comic-Con that's going to be coming up for the year of 2020, because they did make announcements on the next crop of movies that are going to be coming ahead. But let's jump into this movie. We have Batman Hush. It's directed by Justin Copeland, and it's written by Ernie Altbacker. Ernie Altbacker's been doing a lot of writing for the animated Warner Brothers animated division when it comes to the DC Universe movies. Recently, you've seen his name attached to quite a few things. Justin Copeland, I don't know. I think he's a first-time director. He's been a storyboard artist on some of the previous projects, but they gave him a shot at directing on this one. And I think he is also going to be directing, if I remember correctly, he's going to be directing the Wonder Woman Bloodlines release that's coming out. I think it's coming out September, October. They released a trailer for it recently, but again, we can talk about that in a little bit later after we get into this review. But either way, the breakdown for the movie is as follows. Batman sets out to discover the identity of a mysterious mastermind using the Joker, Riddler, Ra's al Ghul, and the Dark Knight, other enemies and allies as pawns in a plan to wreak havoc. And this is based on Batman Hush, the famous, critically acclaimed story that was done by Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee some years ago in the comics. They, did their adaptation on it here. As far as the voice cast, we have most of the current new 52 age, because most of these movies right now, they changed the branding over to like that new 52 era of DC Comics. Jason Amara has been the main voice for most of those films as Batman. We have Jennifer Morrison as Catwoman. We have Stuart Allen back as Damian Wayne. We have Sashi Alesso as Lady Shiva. Jeffrey Arend as the Riddler and Hush. Chris Cox as Scarecrow, James Garrett as Alfred, Adam Guilford as Bane and Clayface. We have two different Peyton lists. I looked them up. I was like, is this a coincidence? But they're actually two different actresses. One as Batgirl and the other one as Poison Ivy. We have Sean Mayer back as Nightwing, Jerry O'Connell back as Superman, or his wife Rebecca Romaine as Lois Lane, reprising that role. Jason Spisak as the Joker, Maury Sterling as Thomas Elliott, Bruce Thomas is Commissioner Gordon. They have yet another actress, Hayden Walsh as Harley Quinn, Vanessa Williams reprising the voice as Amanda Waller, and also Rainn Wilson back as Lex Luthor. So it's a star-studded cast, most of them reprising their voice roles from previous DC animated films, which is kind of cool, keeping the continuity there. The first thing I have to say about this film, more so than the other ones, they've been on a really good streak of putting out what I felt are really acceptable, good, solid movies. This one felt like it lacked energy. It just came off very flat to me and uninspired. Now, I love Andrea Romero, and she was for the long time, she's, award-winning, critically acclaimed voice director, and she spearheaded the DC animated division, casting, a lot of the movies in the beginning. She retired a couple of years back. Wes Gleason took over, and he's done a really exceptional job with, the casting of voice talent, getting real results from them. But I felt like in this movie, it was disappointing hearing a lot of the deliveries from the actors just felt like deflated, and they were kind of just like going through the motions, reading and delivering their lines, which was really jarring for me, because he's done a great job in getting the most, and the actors felt very engaged and very into the roles that they were doing, and it was throughout the whole film. It just, all the line delivery just like fell flat and was like a thud on the floor to me personally. The animation, as always, is pretty solid. They use the same kind of house style. They try at points to try to mimic the artist style, but it's hard to mimic our style such as Jim Lee's. So they kind of kept it in the house style, which was fine. We're used to it, and it works. And they can pump that out in a pretty quick rate. So I don't have any qualms about the animation. I never do with these movies. Like I said, in certain points you could tell where they rushed, where it's not as tight as in other parts of the movie. But again, they've even started to smooth that out as they're doing more and more of these, and it can tell. So the overall quality as far as animation and visuals were just fine on the movie. I think as far as the energy in the movie and the performances, though, we've seen these same actors excel in these roles, that they just the delivery, and like I said, the overall energy of the movie as you watch it is just flat for me. One other thing that really stuck out like a sore thumb to me is that they did something they haven't done previously. You could do montage footage in a animated film, but they did this Batman and Catwoman montage where they used like animated still frames and motion of them like moving, and it kind of felt like maybe like homage to like which you would see, in early animation. But for some reason, with the high quality of the motion animation, to take those animated frames and then motion them and like move them on the screen, it just came off very cheap, and it took me out of the moment of the montage. I'd rather have just been like, you animated that montage through, and it kind of felt like a cheap way to cut corners to me. And it, like I said, it kind of was jarring for in the middle of the movie how it was presented. It just came off very cheap and like, hey, we're cutting a little corner here. But that's just where I'm at with that. I could have did for this movie to be a little bit longer, so we could have got a little bit more backstory on Bruce's and Thomas' relationship, because it is revealed that that if you're unfamiliar, spoilers, that that Hush or Thomas Elliott was Hush, and you wanted to see some backstory on why the animosity, what prompted him to go to this extreme to go after Bruce and Batman. And so if it could have been a little bit longer, where they could have kind of, even if they added that, I know in the original story it wasn't fleshed out till a little bit later, his motivations on coming after him, but it would have been cool like if they added another 10 to 15 minutes or so to kind of, you could see kind of his motivations. The pacing fell off. It started strong, and it just continued to lose steam as the movie went on. So like I said, I was very into it, how they introduced Hush and the different elements on how he's manipulating the different people. And it was, you kind of had that, mystery going on. So it started real high, and it just, kind of like went downhill progressively, to the end of the movie. I felt like this as well. This is something that I feel a certain way about, and I'm gonna reserve judgment till I see more of his work. I felt like the direction by Justin Copeland was just a little stale and uninspired. It wasn't anything too spectacular or mind blowing. It just seemed very standard, and I think it goes in conjunction with the voice performances, and just seeing the Batman versus Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, and even the two the Superman movies from last year, and then this year the Reign of the Superman and the Death of Superman. They just seem way more dynamic and grander in scale, and this seemed just very like, people have been wanting this, let's just get it done and get it out the door. And again, he's coming from being a storyboard artist to being in the director's chair. Like I said, I know he's directing the Wonder Woman movie. I saw that the trailer for it, they released that not too long ago. You can find that online, and it looks good, it looks interesting. So I'm really curious to see how he's grown as a director from this being his first movie and that next one coming out, to see if he improves. But again, so I'm going to reserve judgment for the time being, because again, this was his first time going from storyboard artist into being full-blown director. So again, my hope is he can turn it around when Wonder Woman Bloodlines come out. It's actually coming out, I remember now, I see the date here in my notes. It's October 22nd. So we got a couple of months to that drops, and so it'll be interesting to see, if his direction gets better. Overall, when I look at judging this movie, I pretty much own all of the Batman movies at this point that they've released on the as the DC animated original movies. I'll eventually pick this up when I can catch it on sale, like I normally say when it comes to these. It's not my favorite by any means. I give it a overall score of a 7 out of 10. I think it wasn't the worst one, and I just felt like the story was there. They had the voice performances, but again, they were flat, and I felt like the two things that held it back from being better or a higher score for me was just the energy and the line delivery and the overall direction of it. Because the direction in the past few had really made those movies more cinematic and more grander in scale, and with this, it missed the mark for me some. So it kind of took some of the wind out of the sails for me personally. So I could only give it a 7 out of 10. But again, I'm looking forward to seeing what the director, Justin Copeland, does in his second time out in Wonder Woman Bloodlines, that we'll be covering. Once that comes out, I'll be doing a review for that here on the feed as well. But we looking at some of the upcoming movies. Like I said, we have Wonder Woman Bloodlines, and then what was announced during Comic-Con was we're going to get a Superman Red Sun for 2020. We're going to have Justice League Dark, Apocalypse War, and Superman Man of Tomorrow. So those are the three. So it's going to be a Superman heavy year next year for the DC animated releases, and we're going to get another Justice League Dark in there. So it's going to be interesting. We don't know too much about what they're going to be. I think Man of Tomorrow is a totally original story. Batman Red Sun is based on, I think it was an Elseworld done by Mark Miller, and I can't remember who did the artwork on it, where, Superman is kind of, instead of landing in Kansas, it's kind of like he lands in Russia. So that's a whole different take. That's going to be interesting. I think I picked that up, but I haven't read it. So I probably will brush up and read and review that here on the main feed before that movie's release. And again, we don't have anything slated as far as release dates. We just know these are the 3 projects that will be coming out. I guess in the way they have it listed, it'd probably be Superman Red Son will be the fall release, then so on and so forth, and then Superman Man of Tomorrow will be coming out towards the end of that year. So that's kind of how they're breaking it down at this point. And I don't know if they're going to have any other, or they're going to follow up the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Batman, but that was in conjunction with Nickelodeon, so it doesn't really count as this main DC original animated universe. So we still might get other animated films released in 2020 that we still are yet to know about. So as we get more information, I will update you guys, and I will be trying to review those, because like any of those movies that look good or interesting, I always look to review them here on the feed for you guys, because I'm a fan of them. I collect them, so I definitely will be picking it up. Let me know what you guys think. If you've seen this, I know I saw some messages on the Facebook group that some of you had already bought it. I bought it in 4K. I want to know if you've had a chance to watch it. Do you agree with what my rating is of the movie? What were your thoughts? Let me know down in the comments. Hit me up. Tell me what you think, if you agree or disagree. And let's discuss it some. But that's all I have for you guys for this episode of Comic Book Savant Extra. I am your host, James Harris. Also, guys, check out the merchandise store. And if you have a moment and you haven't already, jump over to iTunes and leave a review for the main podcast on there. If you've never done it, take a moment to do it. You don't give whatever you feel like rating you want and leave whatever comments. That just helps the show gain exposure to more people over on iTunes. It helps rank it higher. So if you haven't done that already, please take a moment to do that. But again, that's all I have for you guys for this episode. Until next time, you guys take care, be safe, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.